I got a chapter, I got a chapter, and guess what's inside it? Pirates of the Caribbean? Anyone? No? Just me? Okay. Hello! Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. If we haven't met already, hello, hi. I'm sorry, so far away. Name's Quinn. Very nice to meet you. I am 23 years old, and for the past 6-ish years, I have been collecting my coins. So today, we're counting up all of these coins that I have been gathering throughout the years. Honestly, this isn't even all of them. I have another piggy bank somewhere in my house that has more coins in it that's like halfway full. I just don't know where it is, honestly. It's in a box somewhere. No idea where, so we're just counting up this one. Here on my channel, I talk a lot about budgeting, and this here is where I've been keeping all of my coins since I was 17. I have been working in the food service industry since I was 17, and with that comes a lot of that loose change there. I never really knew what to do with it, so I always just put it in piggy banks. For the past few years, I've been trying to debate about what I'm going to do with all this money. I never really exactly knew what I was going to spend it on, and then I realized a couple years ago that I should spend it on my first pet. I really love cats and dogs and just pets in general. About a month ago, my husband and I decided to get a cat, and the timing was a bit more quick than I had anticipated, so I wasn't able to count this before we went and got her. I also have been a bit too crazy busy since getting her to be able to count this gorgeous jug right here. But now the time is perfect. I've also decided to make this a Q&A, so throughout this video, you're not just going to be watching me count money, because that's boring, but I'm doing a little Q&A. So let's just get right into it and try to get all these coins out. This is gonna be kind of a mess. Let me move my coffee. Okay, I'm not gonna get them all out right now because I already got a good pile in front of me. So we're just gonna push that way. I know you're thinking it would have been a lot easier to just cut the thing open. Honestly, just the top or the side, put a little hole in it. But I'm wanting to continue using that jug for future uses. So, recycle! Here's Klua, my little cat if you haven't met her yet. She's a bit hyper. And she is playing with these bag of coin rolls. I have a couple of them. I got them from Office Depot. I posted on my Instagram story that Target had ran completely out of these coin rolls, and I had a lot of people respond back saying that I can just go to my local bank and ask for some free ones. So I unfortunately didn't do that because I was really quick and wasn't looking at my replies soon enough, so I went to Office Depot and got these. They're like $5 a bag, which is kind of ridiculous, so I do wish that I had thought to go to the bank first, but I don't have a local bank yet. So also Brian asked why I wanted to roll the coins instead of just going to Coinstar, and I was like, yeah, I want to have some of my money go to Coinstar because they take up like a percentage. On top of that, that's not a fun video, you know, but since I technically spent $10 on these coin rolls already, it's like I might as well have just gone to Coinstar. But once again, not a fun video. Okay, I'm gonna need you to not. That's super cute and adorable and fun, but I'm gonna need you to not right now. I'm going to divide the pile up between quarters, dimes, nickels, and pennies. So that might take a while. Let's do a time lapse. I wanna know what's inside that heart of yours. Ooh, I feel paper thin. Ooh, when will you let me in? Do you let anyone get under your skin? Okay, this first pile is split up. I even found a Dutch coin in there. Do you have to do this when counting your coins? Obviously not. You don't have to do this. I just do it for my own sanity when picking through everything. So now we're just going to answer the first question, which basically a lot of people were asking this question just kind of worded differently. It was, how did I get into budgeting? How did I get into the cash envelope system, which is my way of budgeting, and how I joined this budgeting community on YouTube. Right, so if you hear some noises throughout this video, it's her playing with anything in this house. So I know that I tend to ramble when I start answering questions, but you guys know what you're getting into watching these videos. So how I got into budgeting, actually actually started when I first started working back when I was 17. I remember my mom sitting me down, looking at like budgeting on Excel and being so frustrated because I didn't understand what I was looking at. I didn't want to do it, and I like started crying a little bit. Like I was so frustrated by the thought of having to budget and how frustrating it can be to budget. Just the thought of it got me frustrated, and I started tearing up a little bit. But at the time, I was 17, I was living at home, I had one job, I wasn't paying really many bills. I think I was just paying for my car at the time. So budgeting for me at the time wasn't that big of a deal. And then I started going to college, and it was an art trade school-ish type of thing. And so for the general education classes, they had them geared much more towards like the artsy things. So instead of an algebra class, math class, it was a budgeting class, like a how to manage your money type of class, which was great. But still, at the time, I wasn't really in that budgeting mindset, so nothing really stuck to me. But we did have a teacher. He was very, very old school. He was rather old. If he wasn't already close to retiring, if he wasn't already retired and taking that job as like a fun side thing to keep him busy, he was very close to retiring. And one of the advice that he would give a lot of us when it came to saving money was very outdated advice. It wasn't applicable to a group of young, broke art school students. It was like, hey, if you're spending a lot of money on your wife's wardrobe, maybe don't buy her so many shoes. And it's like, I'm sorry, what? And the whole thing about like, don't buy Starbucks cups of coffee every day, which is good advice to give, but to our class, it was super relevant. Everybody brought in their own coffee that they were making at home, or they just weren't drinking coffee. Like, it was just a relevant advice that he was giving to the class, very outdated. There's other things that he was saying about money that was very outdated. So flash forward a few years when it came time for me to move out of my parents' house and live on my own, I really did have kind of like no solid foundation of how to budget for myself. On my video talking about my financial history, I kind of talked about it a little bit more. But when I became so broke to the point of living out of my car, that's when I started looking up like, hey, how do I manage my money? Because I was not doing a good job doing it. Plus, I was a server, and a lot of the things that I was seeing online wasn't very applicable towards people who are having inconsistent part-time income, especially specifically as a server, because we had cash tips that we were dealing with, and I didn't know what to do with my cash tips. First, I found The Financial Diet. They're a YouTube channel here. I absolutely adore them. And then I found Alyssa Nicole Budgets and her talking about the cash envelope system. And I was like, mind blown, what is this? Started looking into Dave Ramsey. And then I also found Asia Dang when she was talking about having to pay off the huge amount of debt that she had from school. And I was just like, all of this is applicable and relatable for me right now. How do I make this my life? And so the cash envelope system just really worked out really well for me, because I was definitely a person who swiped my debit card without thinking about it. And I was taking home cash tips, and again, was just spending it without really thinking about it, but putting everything away to where it needed to be. It worked out really well for me. So when I was looking up more cash envelope videos and budgeting videos, I realized I wasn't really seeing anybody that was a server. I wasn't seeing anybody who was a waitress, who was working in the food service industry. A lot of people were people who had salaries. They had a very consistent income. They were able to do a zero-based budget and have it apply to every paycheck. The same thing applied to every paycheck, and I was really struggling trying to figure out how to make it work for the type of money that I was doing. So when I finally kind of figured out how to do what I was doing, I was like, you know what? Let me share this. Not only was I starting to get into bullet journaling and I wanted to share some of those videos, but I was like, hey, I'm really not seeing any other videos out there of people who are food service workers stuffing cash tips and who are budgeting the way that I do, and who are young and dumb and broke and don't really know what they're doing. So let me share my journey with people, because I got a lot of debt to pay. I'm still trying to figure things out as I go, and I needed accountability, so by filming myself, it was really good accountability for me to stay on track for things. So yeah, that's my answer for that first question. We're gonna start rolling some of these coins now that I've talked long enough. Trust me, there's more where that came from. Really quick, before we continue going, go ahead and leave a comment, a suggestion of how much you think I have in this entire thing, because I think Brian thought I had only like, I think he said $70, and I was like, sir, no, there's definitely a lot more than $70 in here. Leave a comment, tell me how close you are. The person who gets the closest in their assumptions gets a gold star. I think I put $4 in here, I already lost count. Hello. Okay. Let anyone get under your skin. I just wanna get
to know you, boy. You feel so far away, though you
Boom! That pile's decimated. Ka-chow! I didn't watch all the cards today. Okay. This video is definitely going to take me a long time to make today, so prepare for a whole different lighting change later on. Anyways, out of that pile, I had $37.50, some other little change on the side. But the next question. Okay, so Jessica asked a question. She basically said, when you return to work, will you keep doing the baby steps, or has COVID/marriage altered your financial plan? I'm gonna hide these from you. I do plan on continuing doing the baby steps. I do carry the most debt between Brian and I, and it is important to the both of us that I pay it off as quick as possible. So the band that Brian has a contract to work with finally released their tour dates, but that doesn't start until next year, so he's also going to be having to find like some other kind of just for the moment job for right now until he can start working on the road again. So I think the only difference is we might not be able to attack it as aggressively as I had hoped that we'd be able to, but we do still plan on doing the baby steps. We're both in agreement that we want to be able to have a good chunk of an emergency fund in our savings, a good 3 to 6 months, while also working on tackling my debt as well. So that's pretty great. I have a quick and chat with me video where I talked a bit more in depth about how we plan on doing our budgeting when it comes to the time when we can actually start budgeting together and tackling our debt and doing all the savings and everything. But yeah, I hope that answered that question, and now to start another new pile. Okay, gonna separate this pile in 3, 2, 1. Ta-da! Look at that. Everything's done. Movie magic. Of course, they're doing like really intense yard work outside. Okay, so time to start counting. 90. $1. Oh, I need more nickels. I feel like nickels are so underappreciated as a coin. And all that just came out, not a single one of them are nickels. Okay, so we're just gonna move on from the nickels. Got some dimes. This is such a weird, boring video. I thank you guys for watching that. Like seriously, thank you for sticking around and watching this, which this is why I decided I was gonna make it a Q&A too. Cause imagine me just sitting, not doing anything, just answering questions. How boring would that be too, you know? $9. I got $1. I got $1. I got $1. Hey, 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 hey. Who's got $1? I got $1. I got $1. Hey, 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 hey.
ooh, I feel paper thin. Ooh, when will you let me in? Do you let anyone get under your skin? You play it cool, but underneath I know you're hiding something. Do you let anyone get under your skin?
Okay, that group is done. We're probably a third of the way through the bottle now. Sounds like I have a drinking problem. Anyways, the amount in that group was 10, 20, 30, 5, 7, and then almost an extra $2 of nickels. We know just about how big my handfuls of coins are. So in total right now, oh my goodness, we have 60, 75, 6, 7, 8, $78.50 of rolled coins. I think that definitely surpasses how much Brian thought we had. Taking a coin counting break to answer another question. Okay, this one's fun. So kind of piggybacking off the last one about like jobs while being married, in a way, in COVID, blah, blah, blah. Donna asked basically like, why don't Brian and I sign up for something like Grubhub? Doing some kind of food delivery like DoorDash or Postmates or anything like that, Uber Eats, or even driving for one of those. I totally get, like, I've even suggested to other people that they do some food delivery right now as like a side hustle, or just in general as like a side hustle. I even am signed up to drive for Postmates. But here's the thing, I am aggravatingly bad at driving with directions. I have zero sense of direction. Sometimes it's fun when you're driving with me and I get lost a little easily, and then we end up seeing some other new neighborhoods that we might not have expected to see. I do rely pretty heavily on a co-pilot being really good at following directions and telling me when to turn, because if I'm looking at my GPS on my phone while driving, I miss turns a lot. like, like I tend to give myself at the very least, at the minimum, a 15-minute gap when I'm driving somewhere, just in case I get lost. So that's why I personally do not drive for Postmates or do anything like that, because these people want their food on time. They want their food to be nice and fresh, and I don't want to be the person that ruins their day by having their food be barely late, you know? Okay, so I'm gonna continue counting for a little bit, and then I'll check back in with you guys, see how far along we are, how much money we got rolled, and answer a few more questions then. Whew. Okay, we did 2 piles, 2 little mini piles, and so far from those 2 piles, little small hand piles, I got $59.50. So combine that with the other rolls that I have here, $136 combined rolled. I do fear that I'm gonna run out of penny rolls soon, so I might not be rolling that. I might just be like pushing pennies off to the side when we get to that point, but it's fine. We're just gonna move all of these rolls off to the side here and get to another question. So Carly asked if I have any recommendations for starting the cash envelope system, as well as how to pre-plan for card problems, new phone, the biggies, type stuff like that. So the big thing that I recommend before starting like any budget is to track what you have spent. At the very least a week, you want to see what your spending habits are like. So a week, if you're comfortable with it, a month, this is tracking down every single penny that you spend. It's a little crazy, you're gonna feel a little crazy. If you're living with people and they witnessed you trying to track down what you're spending, you might feel a little insane because you're like writing down everything or logging it into some like app or whatever. But it's really important to see what your spending habits are, get a nice little pool of information to pick from. This way you can see what your budget actually is. You can see on average how much you spend on like gas or food, or where exactly all your bills are coming from, because sometimes you might not realize that there are bills that you're paying for, subscriptions, the things that you might not realize that you're paying for, that either you've been paying for them for so long and they're so small that they just kind of fly over your head. Things like, say you have Spotify Premium and you're paying for that every month, you might not think so much of like $8 a month, but that is something that you're spending money on, so you want to make sure that you're tracking that. For myself personally, I always forget to include my Apple payments into my budget. I think I've upgraded it to a $9 storage plan, so I'm paying $9 a month, but I always forget to include it. So if I was still doing a completely zero-based budget right now, if I wasn't having money in my account, then $9 will overdraft me. So starting ground, you need to know what you've been spending to be able to budget from there, so you can figure out how much money to put away. And to actually start implementing cash envelope systems into your budgeting, I would recommend looking at how other people do their cash envelope systems, see the different ways that they do it. I know I do my cash envelopes really differently from a lot of other people. So it's a lot of gathering little bits and pieces from how other people do things, taking inspiration and then applying it to what fits for your lifestyle. Things just, they move with the flow, so you just gotta be able to roll with the punches as they come. So when it comes to you trying to pre-plan for things like car payments, the big stuff, that is where sinking funds come in. Those are my favorite things to put money away for. There's sinking funds. I do have a video, it's really old. It's talking about how to set up sinking funds. It's talking about how I did the math to set up my sinking funds. Breaks everything down. I'm probably gonna have to do another one soon once I actually start doing sinking funds again. But the way that I describe it is, instead of getting a big old fat punch in the gut when you have something that's due, you're just getting kind of like little slaps in the face. So for me, working part-time jobs, when I needed things done to my car, it would eat up an entire paycheck basically, and I was kind of just like left in the dust because I needed to take care of my car, but I didn't have any specific money put away for it, so my entire paycheck would go towards my car. Had that happen a couple times, was not a very fun week, but my car was working, so that was a good stuff. But the sinking fund, basically what that means is every single week or once a month, depending on how you want to do it, you're just putting away a little bit of money set aside to its own little cash envelope. Maybe you have like a Capital One where you have just digital cash envelopes, but you're setting aside a little bit of money at a time. It's not really hurting you, but when it comes time to actually need to spend that money, it's set aside. You haven't really been thinking about it. You've been putting it away and it hasn't hurt you having to do that, but now you don't have to really hurt yourself trying to pay for oil changes and a bunch of car things happening all at once. One time I was getting close to the time that I need to get my car oil changed, and I had been putting money away into my car maintenance fund. I never really capped myself. It was not like an emergency fund where you're just like, at $1,000 we stop and we move on to the next thing. For car maintenance, that's kind of something where you're like, something could happen and it could be more than the cap that you give yourself. Fine to do so, but I didn't want to do that. Fortunately, I didn't do that because right up into the point when I was going to get my oil changed, one of my headlights went out. And I had fortunately been putting away a little bit of money, and enough time had passed from the last time I used it, so where I had enough money to pay for the oil change and the surprise headlight. So little things like that, sinking funds, highly recommend looking into those. Okay, so there's a big like fist-size hole on the bottom of this, pushing all the coins up, but I would say we're about 2/3 of the way through with this jug. So I am going to do another little pile of coins here. I have no idea where I'm going to put this pile of coins. I feel like a pirate right now. Pour out in my treasure. And yeah, I'll be right back to answer some more questions.
Would you let me get to know you, boy? Would you let me get to know you, boy? Would you let me get to know you, boy? Would you let me get to know you, boy? Would you let me...
Okay, so that does it for that group of coins, another little handful. I have a lot of pennies. I have a lot more pennies than I anticipated having, and I'm definitely gonna run out of penny rolls. I have one left, and I have a lot of pennies left. So yeah, in that last round, I had 30, 5, 7, 8, 9, 41 dollars. $41, some change, on top of the, what was it, 130 something that I had before. So I now have about 170, so close to 200. So if you're getting close to the number that you guessed, congrats, we're doing good so far. If we passed it, I'm sorry. Okay, so on to the next questions that we have here. KRK, she asked if we plan on having kids. We're getting into the marriage portion of things here. Do you plan on having kids? If so, how many? Yes, we do plan on having kids. We can't really exactly plan how many to have though. We'd like around like 3. Around 3. We like 3. We like 3 kids, and it's probably gonna be another like 5 years until we start trying to have kids. But at the same time, you know, God's got his hand in everything, so it could happen sooner. Yeah. And then 2 questions from 2 different Valeries. One that was if we plan on getting another kitten. If so, how many more cats? Right now we're not planning on getting another cat. Once we move hopefully to a bigger place, which would probably not be for at least another year or so, then we plan on getting a dog. Then that'd be super exciting. You all know that I really want a pit bull so bad. We get a dog first and then probably grow from there. But you guys also know that we want to do van life stuff, so we probably won't be having a little farm quite yet of animals, as much as I love it. The other Valerie asked, what has been the biggest difference, PG, between living on your own versus living with your husband, and what advice would you have about moving in together? So yeah, Brian and I didn't move in together until after we got married. We also were long distance and like didn't hardly even live in the same city and while we were dating. So the biggest difference I would say is getting adjusted to the little idiosyncrasies, little quirks that we each have like with living together. Like we just had like a conversation about this the other day, talking about the way that we face blinds and using coasters. Other than that, I think everything else is just kind of lifestyle differences, not so much between like him and I, but just pre-coronavirus and within coronavirus land, you know? Like the fact that we are home cooking now like all the time. Whereas before I was working and I'd be like eating food from work because I was working in restaurants, and then Brian, he'd be working and he'd be eating because of work or if he was home, like he would just be out and about going around coffee shops and restaurants meeting people, doing stuff, and that'd be like how he's eating. We're making a lot of food at home now, like almost every single one of our meals, maybe a handful out of the week, like less than a handful of a week, like 2 times a week we're going out and getting food. Now we're making all of our food at home. I think things that would have been a lot different if we hadn't already lived with like people of the opposite gender. So like Brian has a sister that he lived with and I have a brother that I lived with, so there's nothing that like really, there's not a lot of differences in like the lifestyle that we live that's kind of like grosses us out or anything. If anything, I'm grosser than he is. so that's what he has to get used to. But I think if you're gonna go and live with someone for the first time, a big thing would be to talk to each other about how, like, expectations you already have about the way that you're going to live. I am kind of naturally a more messy person. I'm not someone who, like, chaos doesn't really affect me as much as it does Brian. So a lot of it is also consideration for the other person that you live with. Like I said, chaos doesn't really affect me as much as it does Brian, though I know that it affects him, so I have to be more mindful about what I do around the house. And I know my parents are watching this and they're calling BS on me, but that's yeah, it's what's happening. So stuff like that is not so much of just being married and living together, it's more of just I'm hanging out at the house all the time. So I think he's trying to motivate me to go outside more often. As you can tell, I'm a little pale. I need to see the sun more, but that doesn't really happen because I'm lazy. We already know. Okay, I'm going to continue counting as much more as I can with the rest of these coin rolls that I have. Hopefully I have enough, and then at the end we'll see how much money I have. And that'll be that. I think that'll be the rest of the things. So let's get counting. The next day, I counted and filmed everything that you just saw today. Everything else was yesterday. When we got to the point of me starting to count the last bits of everything, I realized it was dinner time and I was hungry, so we ate. And then I also realized that I didn't know that we had plans with our neighbors last night. And I was like, you know, your girl needs friends, and I don't want to blow off my neighbors so I can sit back and count some coins. So I did that. I had fun last night. It was great. It was a good time. So now we're here today. It also was fine because by the time I got to the point where I could actually start counting the coins again, it was like 7 o'clock at night. The light was fading. It was late. If you were going to sit down and do what I'm doing and count your coins by hand the way that I'm doing it, I would advise setting aside a day to do this, or, you know, gathering some friends, you know, binge watch The Office, bring some friends over, count some coins. It'll make it go by a lot faster. But if you're doing this by yourself, full day, okay? This is like full-time hours doing this. But yes, the bottle is empty. And so the last bits of coins that I counted ended up being $98.78. So I had to group up the loose change because I ran out of like penny rolls. So I'm just gonna end up putting that loose change back into this thing here. So I'm gonna still use this as a nice little coin collector piggy bank. So the grand total for everything that I counted, drum roll please, $276.78. Woo! All that money is gonna go towards this little girl right here. Hello. She does have a few more vet visits that are coming up, some more shots that she needs to do. We need to try to set up like pet insurance and getting her microchipped. So all of this money is definitely going to be very useful in going towards all of that there. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it was kind of a weird video, and I wasn't able to answer everyone's questions, but I'm assuming that this video was pretty long in itself because I know how long I can answer questions for. So I hope you guys liked the video. If you did, be sure to give it a like. If you want to see more of my face and see me try to conquer the human race, be sure to subscribe. You can find me at all of my social media at Quinn Kaylin. We could chat, DM me, we could become best friends. You can see more videos of Kahlua up on my Instagram because I post her on my story enough. She's a cutie. I love and appreciate you guys oh so very much. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye! Say bye, Kahlua. Bye!